Consciousness, the final frontier. These are the voyages into the universe between your ears. Our mission, to explore collective wisdom, seek out amazing secrets, and spread the message of personal potential.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Universe Between Your Ears. I am Tim Starr, one of your co-captains, and joined by my partner in crime here, Gabi Mosheyev.
Hello to everyone. Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's true. We have a fun guest on today. I met her a few months ago, and she's probably, you're definitely the first person I've spoken to who does anything related to what you do, and maybe the first I've heard of, I think. But Dr. Jane Guyn is a UCLA-trained nurse with a doctorate in human sexuality. She's the author of #1 bestseller on Amazon, Too Busy to Get Busy, and the creator of The Lover's Journey, which is based on her transformational trademark bedroom model. Because Dr. Jane's been married over 30 years, she understands the challenges. She and her husband Jim have a big family. Jane, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here with both you guys and with your audience. A fantastic day to talk about.
Nice to see your smiling face.
Thank you. Great to see yours.
So we're going to have some fun, I think. That's the plan every time we sit down here. So I'm not even sure where we jump in to start on this. Maybe let's do this. The sort of the idea for this show is to help people with, because the universe is all just what happens between our ears and how we look at life. And so what we want to do is give people opportunities to change how they think or what they think about. And when it comes to sex and being happy or satisfied with your sex life, so much of that is in your head and in your mind. So, is that enough for me to dangle in front of you to get you started on down that path? Or?
Yep, absolutely. The biggest sex organ in the body is between the ears. It's the brain. Our minds are the most important part of any sexual interaction with a partner, because everything that we think about influences the way that we show up as a sex partner and the way we greet and welcome the other person. So it's all about our thinking, our mindset, what arouses us, what turns us on. All those things are all internal to us. And what we think about ourselves and the way we are sexually is also huge, because when we feel insecure, and we have all this negative self-talk, it really can ruin an otherwise great sexual experience. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Tim, about that.
And part of what's coming to me as you're talking is, if anybody has any doubts about that concept, that in my opinion, it starts in your mind, and it's the biggest factor to staying interested in somebody. It is a emotional connection and all, but it's psychological stuff. Yeah. All you have to do is look at other cultures to see that, what you think is physically attractive, and why would anybody else think otherwise? All you got to do is look at the next culture over, and they see something totally different.
Right.
And there's cultures in this country that are so different.
Right. Just person to person. I mean, just talk to your best friend about, or your nephew, and he's got his woman and he thinks she's the best thing in the world. And you think, I don't know what he sees in her, or maybe what she sees in him. But it's a very individual, personal experience, who we're attracted to, what arouses us. And sometimes it's even surprising to us that what happens inside of us. We think, why is that erotic to me? And sometimes it's embarrassing. It's very private for sure. But it's a fascinating topic, and that's why I love the opportunity to talk about it today.
And as you get older, things change too, right? Just it's like taste in food too. But I have found that as I've gotten older, I'm stuff that I would never have looked at in the past and said, well, check that out. And
Right.
now?
Yeah, right. So there's something about as we grow, we become more open sometimes not. Sometimes we become more closed. But what I do when I work with people is to help them. I help my clients to understand what it is that is authentically true for them. Most of the people I work with are women. I work with some couples, but I do a lot of work with women, and I help women figure out their authentic voice in the bedroom in actually 7 different areas based on my proprietary model called the bedroom model that you mentioned earlier.
I have a feeling Gabby's just waiting.
Yeah, no, it was very interesting to get introduced to some of your work, especially the book that you wrote on Amazon, #1 bestseller, right? Was it like in some years ago? But the moment I started kind of looking into this, I was wondering, I mean, people may just not be compatible, period. I mean, they're together for wrong reasons, and it's just that, sometimes I watch movies and I see like guys going after girls, and you could see that there's just no attraction, but the guys are so persistent. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I would never want to be in that position, to be pursued so persistently. It's like very annoying, and I have no attraction. And so what do you do? It's just like really difficult to get out from the situation. And you know what, from my culture, and I'm coming from Central Asia, right? There are a lot of arranged marriages. And, we were living among the Uzbeks. There's a Soviet Republic of Uzbekistan. And most of the marriages were arranged. And I know many, many women who came to my mom's, to our house, and they shared and they cried, and they just didn't love those men, just hated them. And so are you saying that your method will address this, so that even in those situations, you're going to somehow be able to improve the situation? Or there could be a result of your assessment that you shouldn't be together?
That's such a great question, and so interesting to think about different ways of being in marriages. Because, here in the U.S., most of us are not in arranged marriages, although I do have some American friends who come from other cultures who do have arranged marriages. And but most of us don't. So most of us have that romantic love story that leads us into a marriage. And we think that that's going to allow us to have a passionate marriage that stays passionate. Whereas we think that when people come into a marriage through an arranged marriage, that it's automatically never going to be passionate. I think both of those points are actually false. There are ways to fall out of love in a romantically oriented marriage, and there are ways to fall into love in an arranged marriage. It has everything to do with communication and knowing yourself, and really speaking to who you are and being honest about it. That might not work for either couple, actually. So when I am working with a couple, what I'm doing is trying to help them speak up about it. Like, say the truth, because so many people are worried about hurting each other, which makes sense because we don't want to do that. We don't want to make the other person feel bad. And so we don't say things sometimes that really need to be said. For example, the other day I was talking with a client, and her partner just had a problem with his grooming. And he's an older man, and he didn't take care of his nasal hair. It was a huge turnoff to her. So in my model, the bedroom model, that is the first piece. Body is the first piece. So there's pieces about your partner's body. Grooming is an important variable there. And for her to be able to be with her partner, she needed to be able to say, you know, if you don't take care of that problem, I just have no interest. He maybe didn't know this, but this was something that she had to get up the courage to say because she didn't want to hurt his feelings. She's a really nice woman, kind of sensitive, knows that he's a sensitive guy. And so she decided to not mention it for a number of, like 5 or 6 years. And unfortunately, then he didn't get a chance to fix that problem. So, you know, they, I don't think will end up together, partially because it never got said, but they were also pretty incompatible in a lot of ways. And some of what I did for them was to help them understand that it wasn't a good fit right now.
Great. So we are basically now defining the scope, right? So there are some, you are bringing them to, first of all, better communication, and then through that they'll come to this awareness if in fact they're compatible or not, right? Yeah,
that's right. And sometimes it happens the other way though, Gabby. It happens where they think they're incompatible, but they actually have something that they haven't said. And all of a sudden when they find out that, oh my goodness, something is actually could be working if we did something a little bit differently, how would that be? And the thing just is fabulous after a period of time where they thought it would never be fabulous because there was this like hidden part of the story. So talking about it, but not just talking about it in these different areas is the key piece, in my opinion, about how to create this, and then like doing something clever together so that you can have this sexy erotic relationship, not just all based on talk. You know, talk isn't going to get you anywhere. I mean, you want to have something that's real, that's really sexy, really erotic and arousing. So, but you have to have a basis for that so you know what to do. So, for example, let me give you an example of one thing that I teach people. I teach my clients to create an erotic vocabulary. So, how to talk about your body and talk about.
I'm loving that already.
Yeah.
You would need to share some of that. I have my own, but it could get, you know.
yeah, it could. But here's the other problem. Yeah. If you use your erotic vocabulary with partner, and it's actually not a good vocabulary for her, it actually turns her off, then you can ruin the entire thing just with a few words. So you have to kind of get this understood so you know how to speak to each other in a way that is actually arousing and not a turnoff.
This keeps coming back to communication.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming back. And it makes me think of actually the first interview that we did for the show, and Bree Seeley, and she was very clear that she would never marry for love. Her thing is about communication and constant back and forth on how am I doing in terms of your partner and all these things. And it's all about feedback and being in communication and letting the other person know, you know, and man, if you can start off that way, so much easier, because so many of these things are just they become so awkward to talk about that, like you said, we don't do it just because we want to avoid the potential embarrassment.
That's so true. Absolutely. And, you know, it makes perfect sense that we do it that way because we are not raised to talk about this stuff.
Right.
You know, we know it's not appropriate to talk, or we think we know. We've been told as children, you know, this stuff is personal, it's private, and if there's
don't talk about that.
Yeah, and there's a sense of shame around it for a lot of us. You know, it's considered dirty if we talk about sex. You know, you don't want to bring these things up and make the partner feel bad about you or bad about yourself. And you oftentimes don't talk to your friends either because you feel inadequate. You know, women don't talk about it as much as you'd think we do if you watch TV. You know, you think we talk about it all the time, but it's not really very common. And men, I think, are said to talk about it in the locker room or whatever. But, you know, I think in terms of conversations that are really vulnerable, that have to do with deep longing or sense of inadequacy about how you're being with a partner, how to please a woman, if you're with women, you know, how to be with your own body, how to feel okay about your penis size, about your performance, whether your erections last long enough. And you know, there's a lot of shame around these things. Women feel really inadequate about their orgasms, about their body, about stretch marks, varicose veins, all sorts of things like this that get in the way so much of love and connection and intimacy.
That is so true. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm looking at this as energy, right? Energy, and this to me is probably, you know, the most powerful. I mean, sexuality is very powerful, right? Look how much it's controlling in our society, right? But we are kind of still not, you know, we have this consciousness, the final frontier, right?
Yeah.
We haven't figured out sexuality. The Western societies, I think, they're still barbarians. I'm sorry, you know,
Yep.
myself included, but I'm really on the front lines, I think.
Yep.
So, you know, I mean, we put electricity to serve this Tima's laughing, you know, but it's still very primitive. I mean, what we are having most people in the US, right? I mean, we're talking about 10-second event. That's what an orgasm is, maybe twice a week, right? So it's 20 seconds. I don't know. Let's do a math. I don't know. About 16 minutes a year.
Yeah.
16 minutes a year?
Yeah.
Something so powerful, you know? I mean, why aren't we investing in this? This is an amazing, amazing power, you know, magic.
I agree. That's right.
Well,
yeah.
You know, I'm going to jump in on that because I have experienced connections with somebody where, you know, the orgasm's great and it's sort of it's as good as it's supposed to be, but it's getting to it sometimes is just, it's so much fun. You almost look forward to that more. Yeah. Maybe because it lasts so much longer.
Right.
But yeah. But you're right, Gabby.
When you define sex just as the orgasm, well, when you become goal-oriented with sex and focus specifically on orgasm or only on orgasm, you limit your ability to really be connected with your partner and with yourself and with the energetic. I completely agree with you, Gabby, about that it's this human energy that is available to us through the sexual connection with ourselves and with our partner that fuels so much else in our lives or can. And conversely, it can really limit our success when we feel sexually rejected or humiliated or somehow shut down from our bodies that way. It's really a problem. But when we focus specifically and only on orgasm, we're losing out on so much more. And I completely agree with you, Tim, that feeling of being like in the moment with your partner and not the moment, the moments, and not having orgasm as your goal. Because really, for a lot of people don't have orgasm. And some people don't have orgasm with complete intention. They or don't have ejaculation. So I'm talking about men now who have orgasm without ejaculation. Do you know about that process?
Yeah. This is an amazing way to really have a long, prolonged ecstasy.
Yeah.
Without reaching that exhausting, peak.
Yes.
And withdrawal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I totally don't want you to think that I'm dismissing all the build up to orgasm, right? But I mean, just looking purely at just how much connection to the higher worlds we experience through this this channel of orgasm. I mean, this is an incredible 10 seconds, and if that could be expanded, which now your example, yes, we can expand it. And I hear that women, where did I read this, that they have 10 times stronger or more the intensity of their orgasm. Nobody could measure it. I don't know how they measure it.
Yeah.
But, But I mean, I'm thinking, oh my God, I mean, this is so good for us. Are you saying you're having it 10 times? It's like incomprehensible.
Well, right. And
we're getting a sandwich. They're still going.
Right. You can't, yeah, you can't, I mean, how do you quantify these things? You can't. But what the point is that we tend to limit what we expect out of sexual connection and intimacy. And that, I think, is a really sad piece, because we get these ideas of how it is for us. So, I make an assumption that this is my orgasm. I only have an orgasm in this specific way, with this specific position, and only if these things happen. So when I'm in an experience with my partner, everything else I'm kind of checked out. I've decided, well, this is not my part. This is this kid's part, I'm waiting for my bit. My bit's later. But that means that I'm actually not connected to my body and to him and to the energy of the sexuality that's going through us. I'm like, I've blocked it out. We're talking about the universe being between our ears. I have removed myself from that whole pleasure cycle. And then when it gets to my bit, it's like, okay, I'm going to open up the book now. This is my time. Now I'm good. I'm going to have my orgasm.
Yeah.
But it's a very fragmented thing, and that really limits the pleasure. So then when I finish my experience, I say to my partner, he goes, how was that? It was good. I had my, 22 seconds, and he had his, whatever. And but there's all this separation in there, rather than something that's just more of this amorphous, connected, cloudy, fun thing that doesn't have to have a certain start, middle, end. Because there's
if it's scripted, that's not fun.
Most couples are very scripted in their sex dance. I don't know if you've experienced that. Like, you start out with A, French kiss, A, B, grab her ass. C, okay, she lets you grab her breast, then that means it's on. And some of that is normal. It is all normal, but some of it is because people are trying to cue each other, right? Not screw, cue.
Yeah.
Cue each other, tell each other, okay, I'm open to that. It's a way that we cue each other. But it can be limiting when we do it that way, okay, this is what we always do. We always do A, B, C, and then you have an orgasm, I have an orgasm. And in the past, way back in the day, then they'd have a cigarette. And that's how you know it was over, right? Have a cigarette at the end. We don't do that anymore.
I think that there could be times like that, or there could be special times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you create this environment, and both are okay. Both are great. Every experience has its own purpose and place, and it could be, just fun, quick fun, 15 minutes, 20 minutes release, and right? Or it could be an amazing journey, right? And we both could plan it, right?
Yeah, right.
But
right.
I'm thinking that I really totally agree with what you're saying, because I think the way there goes through almost spiritual transformation has to happen first, because we are so conditional. I'll say, in the meetup, Abraham's meetup that Tim and I both are part of, our last topic was unconditional love, right? And it just occurred to me, unconditional love should be a precursor. It's like a requirement for even tapping into the real energy of sexuality.
Yeah, totally agree.
Otherwise, what you're gonna have a, maybe a slightly better sex for a period of time. Before it gets boring again, right?
Yep.
I mean,
right.
You're
not actually showing up. You're not actually there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. There's there's a parallel that I'm seeing. It's like you just shifted it from this model or this environment over to this one, where this is the same thing as the journey to spiritual enlightenment or self-growth stuff. It's, if you were able to go right from here to there, if what you're focused on is just getting there, then you miss all of the stuff in between. This is where the fun happens. Is the growth and the learning and the experimenting and all of And so I'm seeing the exact same thing with this subject. And
Totally.
then, another thing is that some of my best experiences have been, it's not about me. When I'm really into that person, what I want is to please them.
Yeah.
I don't care about, I'm going to be happy by doing that.
Right.
I agree with you completely. It was like you want to be it's a very interesting concept, because you are pleasuring yourself by giving.
Yeah.
And this is the best way of receiving, by giving.
Yes.
The known concept, if you could figure out how to give by receiving, so you're receiving your pleasure, and at the same time somehow, so you're becoming a channel.
Right.
You're becoming a channel. You're accessing the higher states of consciousness.
But then, one of the things that comes up there is the whole resistance thing, because there are lots of people don't know how to just enjoy it. Just be the object of,
Jane was mentioning, right? Shame and all of that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that in the Western societies, more shame. Let me tell you, I dated a Latina girl. There was a lot of catching up to do for me. She was way more free thinking than I was.
Nice.
And I had to go through transformation with her.
That's great. So here's something I'll offer for you too as a concept to think about a little bit. So you're talking about pleasuring your partner. One of the things that I think is an interesting expansion for a man is to also just allow himself to be pleasured too. Because I think sometimes men come into the scene and for reasons that sometimes are not always good for you, there's a job. And your job is to please her. Now, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing to take on and to do. It's a beautiful thing. But I would offer you another job, if you will, and that is to receive yourself, to receive the pleasure. And even be it would be interesting to try this on, to be somewhat, and the word that's coming to mind for me is passive. I don't mean it that way, but just in that receiving mode and allowing your partner to please you, you're then demonstrating for her. This is how, see, I'm receiving, and now I'm giving and you're receiving. And now you're giving and I'm receiving. And that's beautiful, because then there's not pressure on her to feel like she has to be orgasmic. And there's not pressure on you that feel like you have to be orgasmic. And when that happens, those two things happen, then you have this beautiful swing between each other. And it can be actually something that is really relaxed and still passionate. I mean, I'm not suggesting placid kind of, dull sex here. I'm talking about really being in the moment of the pleasure for each of you, and maybe even with a shifting back and forth, like one takes the lead, the other takes the lead, so that's part of what can be created when you know that it doesn't have to be the same way every single time. Or maybe one time it's all about her. We call that, if you're in the tantric world, you call that Yoni worshiping, because the vagina, vulva is referred to as the Yoni in that culture. Yoni worshiping, you might have a whole session just on worshiping her and her beautiful Yoni. You might have, like, I don't know, you could go crazy thinking of a great ritual, beautiful thing that you do. And then the next session is lingham worshiping, which is for the penis, and then she could just worship you and your penis and create this whole ritual around that with no sense that you have to give. Because we kind of get transactional. It has to be like, it can be transactional to a level that is actually really pulls us out of the experience in any kind of meaningful way. And it's kind of like doing it becomes the thing,
It becomes obligatory.
Yeah, it's totally obligatory. But it might even be like, well, he was really nice to me today, so I'll give him sex. And that can feel really horrid for the man. Like it almost gets into kind of an abusive energy for him if he feels like she's only putting up with it and allowing it because he's done things to make her comply, basically. So you want to pull away from the transactional nature, which can happen for couples, and that's where the thing just goes completely.
But that's different from, he was. I'm excited to do this for him because he was so nice to me today.
Right, that's different.
He was.
Yeah. Right.
He made a great day for me today, and I want to do something for him too.
Yeah, totally different.
That's a different thing.
Totally different.
For this to happen, I'm sorry, Jana, just a quick thought. For this to happen, a person needs to start loving himself or herself, right?
Yeah.
And that skill, loving yourself, and just receiving pleasure without thinking, all right, I'm inconveniencing my partner, or work or whatever, right? That's a barrier for many people, I know.
Yeah. You're right. Many women express that, particularly when it comes to oral sex. They feel, oftentimes they'll express that it takes too long for orgasm with oral sex, that I think he doesn't like it. He's getting tired. I feel stressed that he thinks I take too long to orgasm, that kind of thing. Or, they just feel like he must not be getting pleasure himself from the experience. And most men talk about well, wait a minute, this is my favorite part. But it's part of the way we're socialized to think that something about our bodies isn't appealing. And, you wouldn't say that about making out, kissing in the backseat of the car. Nobody ever said that wasn't fun, but that's because she knows it's fun because she's doing it too. But with oral sex, then there's a lot of the socialization that's happened to women. So, part of your job is to tell her, I believe me, this is a gift you give me by allowing me to please you. And I'll let you please me. Just, if you could let me please you, it would just be such a beautiful thing. And, I'm not lying, and never lie. If you really don't like it, don't do it. If you really don't like it, don't do it. Don't do things that you don't enjoy, because we can tell. We can tell.
Hi, this is Tim Starr. Thanks for joining me and Gabi on the universe between your ears. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a little while. And we'd like to see you again. So be sure to subscribe wherever it is you're consuming the podcast from, whether it's YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever the hell else is out there. We want to see you again. We also want to hear from you. So let us know what you think of each episode. Let us know if you got an idea for a future episode that you think would be just killer. Absolutely, let us know. All right? Thanks again, and we will see you next time around. Bye-bye.